so valuable and important is to be open to the gifts. And what that means is if you decide that you commit, you give the best of yourself to this goal, whatever it is, it's a relationship, it's your career, it's you just becoming the best version of yourself, whatever that means to you. If you just decide to embark on that journey, by doing that, you are going to unlock these gifts. You're going to meet amazing people. You're going to have experiences. You're going to have opportunities you never would have had, and you're going to grow as a person. So I think that not only will the end goal, whatever that is for you, you want to get married, you want to close 10x clients, whatever it is, great. Lose 15 pounds, great. We're going to go after that goal and we'll very well get it. But along the journey, you're going to get just so many more gifts.
Welcome, Alex Weber. He is an international speaker, award-winning entertainer, American Ninja Warrior, and the author of Fail Proof, Become the Unstoppable You. In addition to being an in-demand keynote speaker, an award-winning host, and competing alongside elite athletes on American Ninja Warrior, Alex has been awarded US Lacrosse Coach of the Year honors, holds a world record, and has competed in the World Championships for lacrosse, finishing as a top scorer in the world. Today, he's inspiring millions to achieve breakthrough success with his proven 6-step fail-proof system that teaches people how to never let failure stop them, quit on their goals, or worse, quit on themselves. So Alex Weber, welcome to Passion, Love, Pursuit podcast. As I was saying, I'm so happy we connected because just learning more about you and what you share, it's really, and it couldn't come at a more perfect time. I know that when this episode releases, it will be the beginning of the year. And as we talk about, a lot of people set new goals. We have this audacious goal and, we're all pumped to go after at the beginning of the year. But as time goes, we try these things, doesn't work. We try something more, it doesn't work. And then sometimes we just quit because we're like, this is too hard. And we don't like failing. And I know the word failure you could really relate to. So the topic today is about how you have become a massive failure in all the positive sense. It sounds weird, but what I think is so great is how you talk about failure, which with such conviction and confidence, because it truly is something that is inevitable with all of us. If you try anything, there's a good chance you're going to fail first initially at it if it's something new. And so through your experience, you have stepped outside your comfort zone and you've failed and you've learned a lot from failure. And so this topic is so perfect for the beginning of the year as we set new goals and we step into living those out. So before we go into all that goodness, so you just released your book, which I was diving into, as I mentioned, Unstoppable You, Becoming Fail Proof. And so let's go over this concept. But first, of course, I want people to hear your story, even though I've done an introduction before this episode. Sure. Let's hear about your journey. Like, how did you become a massive failure?
Yeah. No, it's such a funny question. And yeah, Erica, thank you so much for having me. And it's, my life, often I'll get asked about my background because there's been a lot of different pursuits. And I like to use the word chapters. And I really do feel that is accurate. But with that changing of chapters, and we can go into why those chapters kind of evolved into each other and also connected and overlapped. But with it, anytime we begin something new that is ambitious and tough, we are going to fail. Like, we are going to fail. The main thing that I've realized in working with thousands of people and speaking in front of, now it's millions, is that the fear of failure and the experience of failure are very different than actually the objective, what it is. But we're not robots, we're human beings. And so it's a lot to take on a new goal. We have judgments from ourselves. We got judgments from other people. We got, what if this doesn't work out? We got busyness, we got bills, we got notifications. There's a lot going on. So it's very easy to just let some of these goals or qualities that we want to embrace in ourselves just kind of get swept away in what I call the river current of life because everyone's busy. So it takes, in the book, I talk about these brave promises, and one of them is brave honesty. And so it really takes us being bravely honest to just look at ourselves and look at our lives without beating the crap out of ourselves, without judging it, and just saying, you know what, I would like this to be a little bit better. And in that brave honesty, then we can get into it and make it happen.
Okay, so can you share a little bit of your experience? Because I know, yes, as you say, you've had several different pivots. I know you moved to Los Angeles with a goal in mind, and it transformed into other different things. So I know, of course, you've competed. One of the things, obviously, we'll talk about is you competing as American Ninja Warrior, which I'm sure everybody has heard of it. It's a show that really pushes you to limits. It seems so impossible, some of the things. I don't know if you've ever heard of this place or ever experienced it. I would assume you have. It's in Thousand Oaks. It's like I forgot what it's called, the what is it called? Dojo room or something. It's like, you know what
I've
I'm
been
talking
there
about?
many times.
Okay.
Many times. Kevin runs
So,
it. Yeah.
okay. I love that place because it's literally like a mini American Ninja Warrior like course, if you want to say, like if you want to. And it's a great way to practice these little, if you want to say, little runs of American Ninja Warrior.
Dojo
Anyway,
Boom. It's like a trampoline park, and they got everything, and they got a Ninja Warrior set up there, and it's not to interrupt with that, but what I think is really exciting is now as the sport. I mean, 5 years ago when I first was introduced to it, it was a lot of backyard courses, which is amazing. People would set up these. I mean, I just have so much appreciation. They go to hardware stores and they build these monstrosities in their backyard. Now, as the sport has really exploded, if you are within an hour of a city, I guarantee you there's at least one, probably more amazing Ninja Warrior gyms in your area. So it's really cool.
yeah, I thought that place was so fun. I just like, again, it's trying something you normally wouldn't try because not everybody has a backyard built of these little
Totally.
courses. So anyways,
Totally.
a little side note, but so tell us about your journey and how you became American Ninja Warrior and that path.
Well, I did
Summarizing it.
because they do link up, but I'll kind of give the express route through it. I played Division I lacrosse. That was my end all everything goal, dream of life, being a kid growing up. And I did it, and I had ups and downs. I played D1 Ivy League, ups and downs. And then I was supposed to go into finance. That was where the river current of my life was going. And that's a beautiful path, but I kind of knew it wasn't right for me. But I still did it because, like, oh my gosh, my teammates are going to judge me. My parents are going to judge me. Colleagues are going to judge me. Alumni, I have to do this. And then I had one night, my senior fall, I just journaled. We made a campfire, this absolute crappy campfire in our dirt patch of a backyard in Philly. And we just journaled. I'd never journaled in my life. I don't know why we did this. I still thank something bigger that we did it that night. And I just wrote about my life. And I wrote this thing, follow your fire. I just kept writing, follow your fire, follow your fire. And the next morning I woke up, I read that, and I was like, I'm going to follow my fire. And my fire was to go into something in entertainment and people. And I didn't know what that was. And I think that's important because it's beautiful to set super specific goals, but it's also okay to just know, oh, I got this feeling around something, and let it unfold.
Yeah.
And so I moved to LA, didn't know anything, but I just went to everything, met everyone. That was my motto: do everything, meet everybody. So like the first years, I was just running around like a crazy person, but I did everything, met everyone. And why it's important was my side job at that time was coaching high school lacrosse. And it was just going to be like a side job, right? But I fell in love with it so much, and it became what I cared about more than anything. And I was fortunate to win US Lacrosse Coach of the Year in my first season. And then as that chapter kept going, the bug of entertainment, of why I really moved out there, was growing. And I was like, you know what? It's time to leave the coaching chapter and go into entertainment. And, if you do clear space and you fully commit, opportunities will come. And that next year, when I really, and there's a lot more there of how, but I got hired by FX and Discovery Channel and got hired to host for NBC American Ninja Warrior. And why that was also incredible was now I was doing like hosting, hey, I'm Alex, here we are in Atlanta. And, I was doing all the hosty stuff. But what was cool was that the producers of the show thought it'd be fun if I also attempted these crazy obstacles.
Yeah.
So my first season, I was asked to comedically fail, and I crushed it, failed my face off for an entire season. But then for season 2, They were like, what if you got good at this? I was like, that is a bold ask. But that was really what changed so much, because now I had to get good at this impossible feat in order to save my dream job. And I just think back to, I've got a lot of moments that stick with me so viscerally of when I needed to succeed and I was still failing, and just what that feels like.
Yeah, well, perfect. Okay, so just to jump further into that. So, of course, everybody knows what it's like to fail. And
Yeah.
all of us have a fear of, I mean, a lot of us have a fear of failing because we don't want to look bad. We don't want to be judged, or
Yep.
we don't want to, you know, fail at really what we're going after. So, we have this fear of stepping into the steps that we need to take to go after things, right? Uh, but going back to the fail proof, it's hard to say that, fail
Yeah,
proof
yeah, yeah.
promises. I know you mentioned one of them. Can you mention there's 5 of them, correct? What are
Yeah,
they?
yeah, absolutely. And so that was basically my first half of the American Ninja Warrior journey. And I'll as we keep going, I'll kind of share the rest. But the promises are, and why I worded them as promises is, you don't have to do them. They're not rules. They're not laws. And even rules and laws, you don't have to do anything. These are promises. And why that's so important is you have this beautiful autonomy, this choice to decide, what, you're going to honor these. And the first one is brave honesty, which I spoke a little bit about. That is, bravery comes in a lot of forms. It's very brave. It's very strong. It's very tough to honestly look at tough areas of our lives. So it's brave honesty. Choose to believe in yourself, even when things aren't going great, even when other people are judging you, even when your own brain is judging you. You'll always have the choice. You know what? I'm still going to believe in myself in this moment. All you can do is the best you can do, which is my inspirational jingle. But there's such freedom in that, because if you're about to go on a date or an interview or a pitch or a workout challenge, just remind yourself, like, all you can do is the best you can do. And it's not easy, right? It's the best of you, but that's all you can do.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, dive in the deep end. So take big, bold action is what it is, which to me is when you've decided on what you want to do. Being nervous, being hesitant, frustration, all this stuff is going to be a constant, whether we just kind of wishy-washy dip our toe in, or if we cannonball in. And even if it's a belly flop, you're in the water.
Yeah.
So it's just, don't fall into the trap of, because something is important, because we want it, because it's intense. We just kind of like grasp at it, touch at it,
Dabble.
just
Yeah.
go all in on it. And yeah, it'll be overwhelming. Yeah, it'll be intense. Yeah, it'll be daunting, but you're in it. There's no more mystery. And the last promise, which I think is so valuable and important, is to be open to the gifts. And what that means is, if you decide that you commit, you give the best to yourself to this goal, whatever it is, it's a relationship, it's your career, it's you just becoming the best version of yourself, whatever that means to you. If you just decide to embark on that journey, by doing that, you are going to unlock these gifts. You're going to meet amazing people. You're going to have experiences. You're going to have opportunities you never would have had, and you're going to grow as a person. So I think that not only will the end goal, whatever that is for you, you want to get married, you want to close 10x clients, whatever it is, great. Lose 15 pounds, great. We're going to go after that goal and we'll very well get it. But along the journey, you're going to get just so many more gifts.
Ooh, I think that is one of the most powerful ones, because I think also to add to that is, it's good having kind of this specific goal, but sometimes life is meant to go a different direction. But if we're not open to see the gifts along the way and the journey, and we're not open to let it unfold, like flow with life, that sometimes
Yeah.
we'll be so attached to this end goal that possibly we were meant to go this direction. And I think that's the hardest thing. It's a part of surrendering, which I've had talked about surrender on my podcast before. And I think it's one of those things that all of us need to hear over and over again, because it's the hardest thing for us to do is let go, let God, and release, and, accepting, surrendering to what is in the flow of life. And it's a beautiful thing to remind ourselves that, exactly, like, embrace and be open to the gifts along the
Yeah.
way.
Yes,
So
exactly.
I love all those. They're all so powerful. So let's talk about failure. Number one is reframing failure,
Yeah.
because we all know failure is this idea, if you want to say that we didn't get what we wanted. We failed at that attempt. And now, like, really, is there another way to it? So what do you consider failure, or
Ooh.
reframe it?
Yeah, no, it's such a good question. It's so in my, when I write this in the book, my definition of failure is the gap of expectation versus reality. And as I've become increasingly more obsessed with this idea of failure over the last few years, what I think is really incredible is there's these big failures, right? And that's what we often shine a light on. Oh my gosh, you got fired, you missed that deal. Oh my gosh, you're getting a breakup, you're getting divorced. Oh my gosh. Or you crashed your car, you broke your arm, or whatever it is, these huge, massive failures. But there's also these little micro ones that happen every single day. You thought you'd wake up in a wonderful mood, you're not. You thought you wouldn't miss that turn on the way to that important meeting, you did. You thought you wouldn't get in an argument with someone you love, you did. And these little micro fails are so much more important because they're ultimately what decide if those big ones that we like to label and shine a light on, if we call those success or failure. But they start with these compounding micro fails. And what's also really exciting about that is these micro fails are very fixable. Okay, you missed the turn, or let's use the argument example. You got in an argument with someone. We've all done that. We're all going to continue to do that. We're human beings. But like, does that miscommunication fester and turn into an argument, turn into a blowout, turn into a fight, turn into a day-long, week-long, maybe a falling out, maybe a breakup, maybe an end of a relationship? Or can we course correct it? And time is the biggest variable because time is not the same for everyone. Some people can course correct, it back on track, make it better in minutes. Other people takes days, takes weeks, takes months, they never do. So, and that's part of the book is systemizing how we do that. But I just think there's such a beautiful opportunity if we can be aware and notice, okay, that was a little micro fail. Like for instance, I wanted to go to the gym this morning. Okay, well, I really wasn't on it in terms of my calendar and time. And so I didn't get to go to the gym. Okay, that's a little micro fail, but can we course correct after that? Meaning, am I going to be in a funk all day? Am I going to be a bummer? Am I going to think I'm a lazy oaf? Like, do you know there's these little, and they're not little, but there's these very impactful chain reactions that happen from these small fails.
And actually talking about that, I learned this concept from Mark Divine. He talks about being unbeatable. Yeah, unbeatable. You talk about unstoppable, same thing. But he talks about, like, when you're going after this big audacious goal, is what they do in the SEAL teams as well, is you break it into micro little tasks. So you're talking about these like micro little fails, is when you take this big goal and you bring it down into bite-sized pieces, kind of like how they say that that metaphor of how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time, same thing.
Yeah.
So it's these little micro goals. So is that something you do when you have this big audacious goal? Do you have a system? Like, do you reverse engineer and break it up into little micro bits and pieces to achieve this? Is that what you do?
I think it's a great point. I would say, that's probably a learning point of what I could do is probably do reverse engineering. What I have done the most is just distill down, okay, what are the most impactful steps? Like, what is really, so much of life doesn't matter, but it's so busy, it's so hectic, it's so noisy right now to be a human being. It just is. There's just so much. Okay, what are the few incredibly impactful actions or thoughts or behaviors, habits that we can do that as life continues to be hectic, busy, noisy, it's really going to level us up, move the needle of where we want to go. And step two, so there's 6 steps in the book. Step one is deciding on the goals, which we can go into, but it's not to be taken lightly. If you're going to set a goal, we need to understand why we want that goal. We need to understand what it really means to us, because everything that happens after that is because we've set this goal. So it's not just like a wishy-washy, I want to lose 8 pounds. It's like, why do you want to lose 8
Like a
pounds? What does
bigger
that mean?
why to
Yes.
drive you to it. Yes.
And then step two, and to your question, what I call it is make it real. And
Mm.
what that means to me is these ideas, these goals can be so big and daunting and sometimes mysterious. Make it real is what could you do right now? So what could you do right now as you're listening to Eric and I speaking about all this? What could you do to make your goal real? Okay, you want to lose 8 pounds. Okay, you're not going to lose 8 pounds today. That's fine. Could you walk around the block? Could you do 30 push-ups? Could you eat a healthier dinner? Just what could you do to make it real today? Because why that's so beautiful is it just kind of, body emotion stays in motion. You've taken this idea and put it into the real world and it's going a little bit. And then that momentum will be real.
I love that. And that's kind of what you talk about, diving in the deep end. I love how you use that analogy because it's so true that sometimes taking that one step is so difficult and we stay in that fear. But if we just like, okay, breathe
Yes.
deep and just
Yes.
just dive
Yes.
in, and then we
Yes.
learn how to swim. It's kind of like this.
Yes.
When you were telling me about that, I thought about my dog when we went paddle boarding and we let him off, we let him go to swim, and he's only swam, he's 11 now, and he only swam when he was 3. So this was a
Yeah.
second time at age 11. And I'm like, can he do it? And we just let him go and he totally knew how to swim.
That's awesome.
So once you just dive in, you'll be so surprised actually what you're capable of. And so that's the whole great thing about diving the deep end. Just
Yes.
like, at least you got to kind of just push yourself off.
It's so true. And gosh, there's so much we can learn from animals and dogs, especially. Like truly, like their excitement, their love, their joy, their
Yes.
quick next play mentality. Anyways, but so, and you really nailed it, because it's like after we make it real, the next one is really, it's what it is, it's dive in the deep end, because that's step 3, because we're such freaking adaptable creatures.
Mhm.
We just are. And it's like, if we just dive in the deep end, to me, and last night slight tangent, last week I'd wanted to go on this adventure. I went to the Amazon jungle in Peru. It was awesome.
Oh my
But I
gosh,
didn't
amazing.
train. Yeah, it was so cool. I didn't train while I was there electively. I was like, this is to have a different experience of life. And so I did. And so basically I had a week and a half off from training Ninja Warrior. Last night I went and trained with some of the best Ninja Warriors. And I had all those feelings come back. I had negative self-talk, I had fear, I had doubt, I had, oh my God, they're going to judge me, all this stuff. But I will say what's beautiful now is I can understand that, okay, that's natural that I feel all that way. Let's just put a huge bubble around all that feelings and just put them here. They're still here, but like, I get it. I knew you're going to be here. Here you are. We're still going to do what we're going to do. But why dive in the deep end is so great is because you get an honest baseline. So like last night, I literally said to myself, like, let's just see where you're at.
Yeah.
You're going to judge. You're going to be embarrassed. Maybe you're going to be frustrated. You might be out of breath. My cardio was crap, but let's just dive in the deep end. And you get an honest baseline, and it takes out so much mystery, because I write this in the book too. Ambiguity is where goals die. And what it means is, so often these things that we want to do, they're fuzzy and we don't really see them clearly, and we don't even really know how we put them into life. And so they just get swept downstream with the current. So if we get really clear on how we can make it real and we just dive into it, you're in it. You're in it. It's going to become more and more real.
And then that's how you have the opportunity to learn what doesn't work and what works. And I know you've probably heard this story. Probably the people that are listening right now have heard this story of Sarah Blakely. Do you know what I'm about to share? Her story is all about her father. Every time she would come home from school, I believe she had siblings, I can't remember, but her father would always ask, what did you fail at today? And the whole lesson in that, when she shares this story, is basically, what did you learn today? What did you try? And what did you learn from your failure? Because then, like we discussed early on, is when you try something new, generally speaking, you're not going to do it perfectly the first time.
Yeah.
So failure is meant to teach us something of how we could do it differently to then ultimately obtain our goal. And I love her story because, and I think that's something, parents should consider asking their kids, like, what'd you fail at today? Of course, I don't know how that will go with every kid. You want to make sure it doesn't make them be self-conscious, but her story is remarkable how she shares that.
I love that. And, I have another just expression that I like, which is that failing is just doing with judgment. And really, like, again, I love this, just viewing ourselves sometimes as robots, because we're not, right? We're these incredibly emotional and intellectual beings, and that's beautiful. But if we were robots, we wouldn't be judging every time we did something. We would just do it. Oh, okay, increase X, do it. Okay, pump up Y, do it. And we would get better, get better, get better. But we just put all these layers of judgment because of we're human beings. And what I love so much about what you're sharing, and the Sarah story, is it really is. It's like, what did you grow at today? What did you try? What did you learn? What did you push outside of your comfort zone? And that is such a muscle, because, the Navy SEALs have a great line: get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's so
Love
true.
it.
I felt it is, but it is a muscle, meaning if we step off the gas, we do lose it. So we got to, like, stay on it. But the daunting, uncomfortable feelings become less. It's just like, all right, kind of knew I was going to feel this way.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think what's great about this episode releasing at the beginning of the year is my message to at least people right now. What I feel called to say is this year, keep trying something new. Do something new that you've never done and get uncomfortable, because that's where the true growth happens. That's where you learn so much more about yourself. And that's where you discover parts of you that maybe need more work, or maybe also discover what you're passionate about, what you're meant to truly do, like your purpose, your fulfillment. So the only way we could discover that is not in the mundane, typical 9 to 5 work. It's when we are outside our comfort zone and doing something new and really challenging our mind to look at it a different way. So that's what I feel like people need to do this year, is get outside your comfort zone and grow. And you're going to fail. I'm sorry, kids. But so talking about one of the chapters you put together is reframing failure in leadership. And I'm just curious, why did you put leadership in there? Because nothing I saw in the book else, like there wasn't that mention other than that part. So I was just curious.
I wanted to tie in the fact of, again, I'm very big on these words. And words are just sounds, and they mean something different to every person, just like how we're talking about failure and how that means something different to every person. So leadership is one where I've gotten, I've spoken to really impressive organizations on leadership. I've won US Lacrosse Coach of the Year as a leader. I've founded businesses that are successful as a leader. And I wanted to bring in that world of what that is, for two main reasons. One is, a lot of what we're doing in the book and overcoming failing and being unstoppable is self-leadership. We're leading ourselves. And what I have found, and why I won US Lacrosse Coach of the Year, was that I was not ready to be a leader. But because these other athletes, these young adults who had dreams, and I was a gatekeeper to their dreams, and they were going through things and I was going through things, I found that you can grow by helping other people grow. You can heal yourself by helping other people heal. So really, by being a leader to other people, if you can help other people around you overcome their failings, become unstoppable, you're also going to be activating all these amazing qualities in yourself. So it's just, it's a really effective and also a fulfilling way to approach life, is by helping others and also helping yourself.
Yeah. And I think there's such an important thing you mentioned, is leading ourselves. Like truly that is what we're doing to, we are responsible for ourselves, and not only ourselves, obviously we have kids or dogs or whatever it may be, but for the outcome of our life, we are responsible for that. So we are leading ourselves every day.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so if somebody has, let's say, everybody's done their New Year's resolutions, they've written down their goals. What are some questions we should start asking ourselves besides these goals? Like, what would you say are the core questions we should start asking ourselves at the beginning, top of this year, to really go after those audacious goals we've set for ourselves?
Yeah, this is awesome. And it's such a great question. And let's do it together. I'm going to do it too, but these are, cause I got to set mine. I got to
do mine too.
Yeah. And here, just like a slight note on the resolution thing, we can change anything at any time. So that is the hard fact. Time's made up, calendars are made up. Like we can change anything at any time. With that said, if this is a spark, if this is a catalyst, if this is a let's go, use it, run with it. But also know that to people listening, fast forward a week, 6 weeks, you're allowed to change anything at any time. It doesn't matter if there's a celebration with champagne, you can do it. All right. So what I say in the book too is, what does success mean to you? So I would just say, looking ahead to 2022 and 2022, but also just like the first 6 weeks of 2022, the first week of 2022. Like, let's get real right now. What do you want it to look like? What do you want it to look like? Who do you want to be? And what I encourage people to do is explore what I think are 3 arenas of our lives. We have our career, our work, our aspirational goals. Awesome. Explore that. What do you want it to look like? And then 2 is your relationship, which is your friends, it's your family, it's someone romantic. What do you want that arena to look like? And then there's the arena of you. It's just you, your life, one of one, for no one else, who you are, how you feel about yourself, what you're doing. And I would encourage, just take a piece of paper, draw 3 columns, and just brain dump. What do you want this to look like? And that's a really beautiful place to begin setting your goals.
Yeah. And also there's another tool that people could use, and some people have probably heard of this, is the wheel of life, where you rate where you are in these areas. I think there's a total of 7 areas, but of course starting with the 3 core areas is most important. Rating where you are now. And of course, where do you want to be? Obviously, everybody wants to be a 10 in every area, but generally your wheel is a little off balance. In some seasons, you're going to have to focus more on career or more on your love life, whatever it may be. But ultimately, you need to look at those areas and see where you're at. You have to be radically honest with yourself. You said be honest with yourself. That is first, is like gain that awareness of where you're at and where you want to go. And then we have to, if you want to say, reverse engineer, how are we going to get there? So to improve those areas. So I love that. That's a great way to start off the year. So self-talk. I know this is one chapter in your book. We all have this constant narrative going in our heads. It could be something like, oh, I never achieved that goal. Oh, I don't have that education. Or like, I always fail. Or I didn't do that right, so I'm not going to attempt again. How do we switch that? Because everybody has that narrative that's just going around. They're not even sometimes noticing that self-talk narrative.
Well, I think you just nailed it, Erica, so much, was that last part of notice it. I think one of the biggest awakenings, let's use that word, for me, was the realization that I am not my mind. That was like, whoa, that changed my life. Oh, hold on, I'm not my mind, I'm not my emotions. I was like, because I was just like, this is me. Everything that this thing is saying all the time, all day, every day, I was like, that's me. And I liked a lot of it, but it was also pretty freaking ruthless a lot of times too. And now, being observer of your mind, you can kind of just witness, and you can see these thoughts. And some of those thoughts are beautiful and brilliant and loving and connective. Some of those thoughts are kind of hateful and divisive and fearful and negative. And then you can view it a little bit more of like a buffet. Oh, okay, well, I really like that thought. I want more of those. I'm going to focus more energy and acceptance on those. And the ones that they're waves, John Kabat-Zinn, mindfulness expert, waves. You can have a negative thought, and it doesn't mean we're not going to hear it. Doesn't mean we're not going to maybe even embrace it a little bit. But we can just be like, if you had one, like if we had one today where it was like, whatever it is, you're looking yourself in the mirror, or whatever, it's just like, damn it, I'll say some really rough things to myself. Sometimes I'll, and name calling. So let's just say, I think I write in the book, I spilled my coffee one time and I was like, well, you're a stupid idiot, aren't you? And it was just like, I actually laughed when I did that, because I was like, gosh, first off, I'm calling myself a stupid idiot.
Right.
Then I'm such a dick to myself that I'm asking myself to concur. I'm like, what was I expecting me to be like? Yes, I certainly am a stupid idiot. And it's like, what did I do? I spilled coffee. So I just think the biggest gift is to simply acknowledge that this voice is not us, and then to just not believe it all the time. And that there's so much freedom in that. If the voice is saying, oh, you're stupid, they don't like you, they're judging you, they're thinking of you, they don't think you're fun, they don't think you're cool, they don't think you're smart, whatever it is that true?
Mhm.
Or is that just a really fearful opinion? And could that fearful opinion be incorrect?
Yeah. And actually, when you talk about this, it reminds me of the book, The Untethered Soul. He talks a
Mm,
lot about observing the mind. I don't know if you've read that, but if people want to go deeper into learning about that, that we're not our
mm.
mind, we're just the observer of our thoughts.
Yeah.
The Untethered Soul, I know, goes really deep into that concept, amongst other books,
Yeah,
of
yeah,
course.
absolutely.
Uh, so spilling the coffee, I know you do talk about this, but there's something more you share with that. That it's not just about, obviously, like you're actually talking to yourself, like, you stupid idiot, like how did you do that? But there's something more you explain with that. If you could go deeper into that, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I mean, identity and what we believe about ourselves,
Mm.
which is really the root cause. Like our self-talk and our operating system is based upon what we believe about ourselves and our identity. Identity is just so powerful because the character that we've created, whatever we believe that character to be, our thoughts, words, and actions, who we are, is going to mirror that character, which makes a ton of sense. So I believe it's very important to look at who is the character that has been created and to understand that you have had a massive piece in that, other people have, events have, but to also know that we can change and tweak parts of our character. Like we can do a rewrite now. And it's not going to magically all show up in our lives in the world immediately, but it will over time. And just going more specifically to what you were saying, one that I've really had to work on and was part of the reason I like went off into the jungle and had, experiences was something along the lines of just being unworthy and undeserving and not enough. And I have just found that in this fast-paced world, whatever, if we just want to look at type A go-getter and not look at this emotionally feely stuff, which is what some people might say, all the type A stuff at some point or in relationships at some point, that not being enough, that not worthiness, all of that undeserving has surfaced and really sabotaged everything that I've cared about in some way. And so to me, it was like, all right, before we really keep going with all this outwardly, go, 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 do it, do it, do it, let's start with where we're building from. Let's start with the soil. Let's start with the roots. Let's start with the seeds that we're putting in here. And I just really encourage people to slow down in order to speed up.
Absolutely. And I think that's so important for the high achievers, the ambitious people that are tuning in, that I know I'm one of those people. Like, I'm all about productivity.
Yeah.
I That's where I feel my best, when I'm productive. And sometimes, or lately, I've been in the doing, 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 but my soul is so calling me to just be. And like, for
Mm,
example, New Year's, what do I want to do? I want to be in nature, just literally in the environment where I could just go within. It's all
totally.
about, it's nothing about like fun, adventure, or anything like that. It's like, where can I just slow down, be, and connect with myself,
I
not
love it.
be doing like, that to me is something that I think so many more people need to uh, do. And I think we'll be faced with that at some point. All
Yeah.
the doers, all the ambitious people, like, there's only so long we will burn out doing
Yeah.
all of the things. And then we'll hit rock bottom. We'll be like, oh, I
Yeah.
just need to like connect with myself and go within.
So
So,
true,
yeah.
and I'm so with you. And, one thing that I've really realized is, I travel a lot for speaking and for the book and for work, and I love it. But I also noticed that you can't outrun things, and wherever you are, there you are. And
Yes.
so it'd be really interesting. The hotel room would change, the city would change, the event would change, but certain habits, certain qualities, I was like, damn, that's still here. I thought maybe it didn't come to this zip code. I thought that, that bad thought pattern or that was a bad decision stayed over there, but they don't. And you just do get to a point, and just like you're saying, Erica, and I think that's brave honesty, is just saying, all right, I don't love this part of myself, and that's okay. How can we embrace and cultivate it to be a little better?
Yep, exactly. And I love that you share in the book, external results are the results
Mm.
of, how's it go? External results are the product of internal beliefs. Yes, love that.
Thanks for
I,
reading it. I mean, yeah.
I love reading the books of people I interview because number one, I want to conduct a good interview, but also it's to learn myself. Like the reason why I started this podcast, the sole reason initially, it's changed, it's evolved, but the sole reason is I wanted to continue my personal growth. I wanted to become my best self and to continue to learn. And I wanted to share that journey with other people. So I'm kind of like, it's kind of my little tool I have is I get to learn to conduct the interview. So I'm constantly evolving myself in the process of interviewing remarkable people. So it's pretty awesome.
I love that.
Yeah. But so, and there was another thing, which I love this. I think it's important for people to think about this, that there's a cause and effect to everything. And we really are the cause. Depending on our choices are going to lead us to the results. So can you explain that? Because I think you touched on this a little bit, the cause and effect.
Yeah, just that, I just think, so much of life is out of our control, and that's just a fact. And what is kind of mind bending about it is even though it's out of our control, it really deeply impacts you. It impacts your happiness, your well-being, your achievements, your success, fulfillment, everything. But there will always be certain things that are inside of our control. And what I think is really beautiful is this notion of being a cause in your life. And I share in the book, I was speaking at this event, and this Austrian dude came up to me after, and he went, "You're a cause." And I was like, all awkward because I didn't know what that meant. And he paused and he goes, "There are causes and effects. You are a cause." And I was like, oh man, that meant so much. And I've carried it with me for years now. And I share it with people because there are causes and effects in this world. And so why not be a cause? Why not be an input to the output of life? And yes, we're not going to get a say in everything, but you will get a contribution to your life. And that is just a beautiful choice, is what do you put into your life? What are the thoughts? What are the words? What are the actions that you pour into your life?
Yep. Yep. Okay. And the other thing I definitely want to touch on, because I think a lot of people go through this where they don't necessarily have the support system around them. When, let's say, somebody has this idea, this crazy goal that has never come up in their life before, but they're like, you know what? I want to start, write a book, for example. What? You don't need it. You don't even know how to write. What are you going to write about? Like, people are just, they don't really believe in that goal of yours. They don't kind of have your back, if you want to say. What would you say to those people that have maybe this crazy goal, but they really feel in their heart to fulfill it? How do they, quiet the naysayers?
Yeah, make it real. Make it real. Truly. So let's go with that book example. You've always had this idea to write a book, or you have this idea for a company or whatever it might be. First off, you get to decide how much or how little. When I first told my college lacrosse mates that I wanted to go into theater, about 2 individuals were supportive, and about 19 were like, "That's stupid." And then some pretty aggressive name calling. I had to, my first 3 months of doing it, I had to sneak off to theater rehearsals. I had to hide. And because if I told them, I would get ridiculed and shamed and told it would never work out. Fast forward, as I continued to improve in theater and all that, they were all like, "Could we come to a show?" And so it's just, I say to people don't see it until they see it. So the biggest thing that I would just encourage people to do is make it real. So let's use like the book example. If you want to make the book real, what might you call it? What might you title it? Could you go on and make some cool logo for it? Could you just write the introduction today or the random thoughts that you have? Is there anything that you could do in this moment right now to, again, take it out of idea land and put it into real world land?
Yep. And also, when somebody says, or if they criticize you for not being able to do something, it's usually because they don't see it in themselves. So I think it's kind of just a projection of how they feel, maybe not secure in what they're able to do, like their thoughts of their inability or what's holding them back. So that's another thing to consider. Like, sometimes it's not about you, it's about them. So really that's just projection.
Yeah, that's so true. And just to, again, have that awareness that if some people think that, like, again, that's their thought. I think it's really tragic, though, if someone just randomly in our lives tells us that book's a silly idea, or you're not creative, or you're not smart, or you're not, and we're just like, oh, I guess I'm not those things, or I guess I shouldn't do this. So I also think, like, in the beginning stages, be really mindful of who you share these things with.
True.
Now, if they're amazing people, they may be like, yes, and I'm going to hold you accountable. That's a beautiful friend. I call these in the book float people, people that lift you up and let them in your life. That doesn't mean they need to be like, you're the best no matter what, but maybe they're like, hey, that's a great idea. Maybe change this, but I'm going to hold you accountable. I'm going to see how you're doing in a week. That's an amazing person. But if someone's just like, that's stupid, that's, and there's no value to it, that person's an anchor person. They can stay in your life, but like, there's got to be some borders around that.
Absolutely. So important to have those little boundaries and be aware
Yes.
of like who's helping support you or who's dragging you back. Yeah, it's so important.
Yes.
The other thing I wanted to touch on is, sometimes even when we have a goal, we don't exactly know the whole direction of how to get to it. And I know this could help by like reverse engineering to kind of figure out more of the plan to prepare you of how of getting that goal. But sometimes you share this, I think I forgot the exact line, but it was like, you don't need to have the whole
Yeah.
staircase, or how's it go?
Yeah. No, I think I love that. You know what's up.
I just
Yeah.
remember these things. It was great. Like I said, that your book is really laid out perfectly. You give all the tangible steps. You give, obviously through your own journey. I think you even wrote this as you were still
Yeah.
you were competing in American Ninja when you wrote this,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, and that was, and I'll go back to the staircase in one
Yeah.
second, but that was really important because I would write this book, and people will be like, "What do you do for work? Are you a motivational speaker?" And I'm like, "Listen, I want to eye roll at that." Like, so I just, I don't know what to call what I do, but I think one thing I'm very mindful of is that this arena of betterment, of growth, of motivation, of positivity can have a cliche, yeah, rah, rah kind of connotation, and I'm passionately against that. What I am for, and what I'm so thankful for with American Ninja Warrior, training to compete while I was writing this book, is that I would write all day. And then I would go and train an American Ninja Warrior, putting everything that I like just was doing through the ringer. And then I would come back and rewrite what I wrote to make it more real and authentic to what it actually feels like going through it. And so to your question about, the staircase thing, it's that you don't have to see the whole staircase. You just have to know that you have the hammer, you have the nails, you have the tools, and you are building the staircase as you go. And you just need to build this step.
I love that. And actually that reminds me when I first started this podcast, of course, I figured it all out at the beginning on my own. A lot of fear around it, fear of failure, of course.
Yeah.
But I didn't know exactly everything, right? But I'm like, I'm just going to start. I dived in the deep end. And then, of course, I'm learning along the way. And I could always pivot. And, once you learn something, once you fail at something, you're like, oh, let me try this route. And you're just like building the staircase as you go. And I think, honestly, there's a lot to be said about that. I think so many people want to be perfect the first time. And trust me, number one, you're not going to be perfect the first time. And also, perfection holds you back.
Yeah.
So many times, like you will hold back yourself a year could go by before starting something just because you want to be perfect. So that's
true. And that, and I've dealt with it too. I've called it like a pedestal. Like I put something on a pedestal, and it's so, you want it to be perfect. It means so much that we don't do it. And you nailed it. It's just like, as we do it, it will come together. We will learn. And, it doesn't mean we want to put our best foot forward. And there is like, you want to feel like you're quote unquote a little bit ready.
Yeah.
But you'll also get ready. You'll get better. You'll get there just doing it, like you're saying.
Yep. And just to kind of wrap this all together with a bow is the importance of commitment.
Yeah.
And you say recommitting to your goal, recommitting to yourself, most importantly. And I think what's so important is you want to stay committed to yourself. It's not committing to other people's goals or anything. It's really staying committed to yourself. Like, I'll give my podcast, for example. My commitment is release an episode every week. I've stayed committed to that because I'm not failing on myself. That's basically what it's like. I have control of that, right? So I love the idea of recommitting, like looking back, as this year starts off, 2022, you've set your goals. Now, like maybe in, like you said, 6 weeks, a month, whatever it may be, look back at that and recommit, like get that fire back in you. Cause that's the thing we all have at the beginning of the new year, this New Year's resolution, we all know it. When we get this, I mean, it's a good reason to set new goals, right? And we get all pumped, but that dies out. So we have to kind of check in with ourselves and recommit to that goal, right?
Yeah, I would say two really important things that you said there. One is, it is charming to talk about our why, but what I really think is important is the visceral why. And what that is like, I know I've asked myself enough, why do you want to do American Ninja Warrior? And there's so many reasons. I love the sport. I love the community. I love that it provides opportunities for me to inspire people. At its core, though, from a me, Alex, living my life, it makes me feel like I am alive. It makes me feel like I am still living, like I'm young, like I'm athletic, versus that I'm dying, that I'm not athletic anymore, and I'll get depressed. And so just at my core, it makes me feel like a better version of myself. I like the Alex more who's doing American Ninja Warrior. So why that's important is because last night, for instance, when I was tired and didn't really feel like going to training, I think about, yeah, but this makes me feel alive. I like me better when I do this. And then I'm like, let's go. Let's get in the car. Let's drive the 40 minutes. Let's train till 10 p.m. Let's rip up our hands. Let's do it. So why I say that, and this is really step one, is these goals that we set, so much of life doesn't matter. So if you're going to set 1, 2, 3 goals that really matter to you, whatever that is, really understand, why do you want it? Why does it make your heart beat faster? Why do you want more romance with your partner? Why do you want to close 10 more deals? Why do you want to lose 30 pounds? And keep asking, okay, but why? Okay, but why? Okay, but why? And so your heart goes, when your heart
it's
goes,
like peeling the onion. I know this exercise is like, once you ask that initial why, you'll come up with something, but okay, dig deeper, peel the other, layer of the onion. It's a beautiful exercise that I think everyone should go through when you have a goal, is getting to that compelling why. And when you get to that deep seated reason of why you're doing something, it changes the trajectory of how you're going to go after it. And also that spark and fire that will ignite you when you're not feeling like doing it.
Yes, 100%. And that is where the commitment comes from, because and I say to people, there is a binary, it is 1-0, there's a fork in the road, and we either keep going for our life as it is, or we commit to this new goal. But if we commit to this new goal, it's a jungle, but you don't step into the jungle and then just get there and a week later, how do I get out of here? We understand we've committed because this goal, remember that why it fired up your heart. You want this relationship to work out. You want those more deals. You want to lose this weight, whatever it is. All right, well, we're going to go through this jungle, and we're going to know that we're going to be scary times. There's going to be daunting times. It's going to be frustrating. We're going to fail. We're going to get knocked on our ass, but it's all part of this journey. And if we are resolute with our commitment to it, we will get through it. And that goal, the closed deals, the romance in the relationship, the losing 30 pounds, it will be in our lives. So the commitment really comes from knowing why we want this deeply and deciding to give ourselves to it.
That is like a perfect, powerful way to wrap up this interview. I mean, I was going to, go on a little longer, but that's a perfect way to end it. Well, I always ask, of course, I'm going to include in the show notes your book, which is Fail Proof, Become the Unstoppable You.
Yeah, it's got too many words in it, but that's it. Yeah.
No, it's perfect. Such a great book. So many exercises and takeaways from the book, and coming from somebody that obviously jumps in the deep end quite often, you share obviously from your learning experience of being in that uncomfortable place and being able to conquer the things that you've wanted to. So awesome. So I always like to ask my guests, well, first of all, where could everybody find you?
Yeah, and Eric, thank you so much for your passion and for reading it. Good gosh, thank you.
You're welcome.
So again, Fail Proof, Become the Unstoppable You. It's on Amazon, Barnes and Noble. My name is Alex Weber. I'm Alex Weber on, that's my website, that's my social media, 1B and Weber. And the last thing I'll throw out is that I also run this men's community, which really came from a deep spot in my heart of, I just felt like I needed it as a high achieving man to be, it's called Men We Admire, to be men we admire in all areas of our lives. So if that resonates for any male listeners or people who know a man who could use a group, reach out. It's beautiful.
I love that. I love men that are really stepping into the more conscious space
Yeah.
and finding more fulfillment in the I'm trying to think how to word this. Not just all about success,
Yeah.
and going after the dragons, but also being more in touch with your heart and your emotions and consciousness and all these things. So I love men that are really stepping in that space. So anyways, I'm sure it's amazing what you've created. Okay. So in closure, I always ask my guests the same question. So I would love to hear from you based on your life's journey. What would you say is a piece of advice you would leave with anybody today that you feel needs to hear this, a life lesson, or just what you would like to part onto us today?
Take off the filter. Whatever that might mean. I think there was times in my life where I would hide parts of myself because I thought, oh, I'm too jockey for the theater groups. Oh, I'm too artsy for these. I'm this, I'm that. And I would tone down and hide parts of myself. And it's taken me over these last years to really just fully be open with who I am. And in those moments of being unfiltered is when so many more riches in life come about. So I just encourage people. I'll say to myself, when I feel it coming back, I'll go, never hide, don't hide. Whatever that means, don't hide.
I love that. No one's ever said that, but I think that's so important. Probably people have said it in different words, but I love how you express that because I think that I know men can relate to this, as sometimes men want to be macho or they want to look tough and they want to, be the provider, and just sometimes, and I think this is changing, that men and women, again, men and women do this. We wear masks to protect ourselves because we don't want to be hurt. And so we sometimes hide those beautiful parts of us that may seem broken or maybe not perfect or whatever it may be. But in that imperfection, that's where the beauty is found. The humanness, the authenticness, all that goodness is found on the other side of the mask. So anyways, I appreciate that. I think so many people need to hear that. So thank you for your wise wisdom you've shared with us today. And this has been so much fun. I so appreciate your time. I knew this was going to be a powerful interview to kick off the new year. And I'm sure a lot of people have gained a lot from this, but of course, get the book, because if you want to become unstoppable, got to learn how to fail, got to learn how to become fail proof. So thank you, Alex. It's been so great. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.